Hello aspirants, I welcome you all to editorial analysis of Shankar IAS Academy. Today's date is 7th of February 2025. Displayed here are the list of articles that we are going to discuss today. In this first article, we'll be discussing about recent air crash that happened 14 hours ago in Reagan. Reagan is a place near Washington in USA. And in the second article, we'll be discussing about the Pravasi event that happened in January. So we'll be discussing both the articles from the mains perspective. Without any delay, let us get into the article discussion. Now look at the title of the article. It reads the primary lessons from the Reagan air crash. So the article entirely talks about what went wrong when it comes to this particular air crash. So from the mains perspective, let us revise about them one by one. Before that, we shall see certain basics. Let's start with what is civil aviation. So civil aviation is nothing but the operation of aircrafts for both commercial as well as non-commercial, excluding the military purposes. So when we talk about the non-commercial, it includes cargoes, aerial work as well as general aviation. So the commercial work includes passenger transport. So when it comes to regulation, in India, we have particular laws. For example, the Aircraft Act 1934, and when it comes to the international law, we have ICAO. So moving on, we shall see about the civil aviation accidents definition. So according to ICAO, ICAO is nothing but the International Civil Aviation Organization. ICAO is actually an agency of United Nations, and it works and coordinates the safety procedures as well as development of standards when it comes to aircraft. So according to ICAO, Annex 13 defines a air accident as a thing if there is any fatalities happening, if there is any serious injury happening or any structural damage to the aircraft or any missing aircraft. So when it comes to missing aircraft, you cannot, if the aircraft is outside of the surveillance, then also they will be categorized as a civil aviation accidents. Now we shall see what are the main causes of civil aviation accidents. See, the first important thing is human factors. For example, there might be pilot errors. In a particular incident, what happened was the calculation of takeoff went wrong, which led to a very big devastation. It is the most horrible incident happening in the civil aviation sector. So you can just Google it and you can mention what accident I'm talking about. And those kinds of pilot errors will lead to civil aviation accidents. Then the ATC mistakes. ATC is nothing but the air traffic control. So if you take a layout of an airport, it has ATC, which is the air traffic control. It is like a tower. So in this particular tower, they can see what are all the flights that is landing or what are all the flights that is taking off, and all the signal control will be taken care by in this particular ATC. So if there is any communication delay or if there is any communication gap in this particular ATC, then it might lead to a very big devastation. Now the second important issue is the technical issue. Sudden engine failure due to any maintenance issue or system malfunctioning, this also might happen due to maintenance issue. Then poor maintenance. So these kinds of technical issue can lead to devastation. Thirdly, weather. The turbulence, it is always there, but when the turbulence is very high, and unexpected storms as well as fogs can also lead to accidents. Now the fourth important thing is the regulatory issue. So in inadequate safety oversight as well as corruption, due to this there will be a lack of a proper maintenance. So those kinds of cases, civil aviation accidents can happen. Then the security issues like terrorism, hijacking, and cyber security threats, those kinds of things can happen, can make a civil aviation accident. And the air traffic, it like congestion and then runway incursion. So those kinds of things can also lead to civil aviation accidents. Now moving on, we shall see about the acts that regulate civil aviation when it comes to India. We have Aircraft Act 1934. So it is actually the primary law for civil aviation, and it was amended in 2020 to strengthen the regulations and to overcome the old things to modernize. No, so the key provisions include, firstly, we have aircraft operation. So for this, the important thing mentioned is any kind of aircraft, they have to first register, and the registration rules and regulations and the procedures will be provided by this key provision. And the second important thing is air navigation. So the air navigation should actually comply with this ICAO's standards. So this is a very important thing, and the legal, and this particular act mandates it. Now the third important thing is the air traffic investigation. It is done by AIIB, and we'll be seeing about AIIB in 2 slides later. And it prescribes for penalties for especially the fines up to 1 crore rupees if there is any particular non-compliance of this particular act. And we have a security oversight under BCAS as well as AAI. So we'll be seeing what is this BCAS and the AAI a minute later. So moving on, we shall see about all the regulatory bodies that we saw right now. Firstly, the Ministry of Civil Aviation, in short called as MOCA. MOCA formulates policies and as well as oversees the development process that is happening. Now the second important thing is this BCAS. BCAS is nothing but the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security. So they regulate the aviation security at the airports. It is as simple as that. And we have Directorate General of Civil Aviation, DGCA. So this DGCA, they regulate air safety, pilot licensing as well as aircraft certification. So any kind of certificate kinds of things, any kind of licensing kind of thing, you have to get to this DGCA. Very important. So these are very important regulatory bodies, statutory bodies that you have to remember. Then we have the Airports Authority of India. They manage all the airport infrastructure as well as air traffic control. So these are certain regulatory bodies that you have to remember. Now moving on, we shall see about the accident investigation. When it comes to India, we have Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, AAIB. So this works under Ministry of Civil Aviation. So they will be investigating the air crashes. They will be identifying the causes and they will suggesting measures. So this also complies with the ICAO's Annex 13. See, when it comes to all these aircraft accidents, there is a particular thing called black box which will be inbuilt in the aircraft. So these black boxes will actually look like orange color, but it is named black box because it actually records all the inputs and outputs given by the pilots as well as the air traffic control. So whenever accident is happening, this black box will be recovered, and this black box data will never get depreciated by anything like fire or any kind of thing. So we can, even if such an incident is happening, we can retrieve this data from the black box and we can identify the issue and we can prevent it from happening in the future. So this is also an important thing that you have to remember. Moving on, we shall see about what are all the lessons we have to learn from this particular incident and how we can rectify it. So the first thing is we have to strengthen AIB. So investigation, if it is done very strengthened by providing a lot of independence, transparency and timely investigation, we can identify the root cause of it and we can bring in a lot of regulations to address it so that the future accidents can be actually rectified. So the second important thing is the ATC pilot coordination. See, the ATC is the very important thing. So if there is a very minute communication mismatch, then there is the very big chance for disaster. So we have to improve training for the staffs. We have to bring in a lot of communication checks. So this has to be done. So this training can also include training them for what will be happening when we should do when a particular hijack is happening. So those kinds of thing also we have to train them, so that even if such unfortunate incidents are happening, the people there are already trained, they could easily manage. So the third important thing is crew fatigue manage. See, whenever there is a particular crew traveling here and there round the clock, they have to given a particular rest of time. So that should be enforced strictly so that any kind of fault from the crew side will be reduced. And we have to modernize airport infrastructure. This can be done by increasing the runway safety areas and automated aids and etc. Finally, we have to bring in public access to reports. So this will actually bring in a lot of trust. So when there is a transparency, the public will be knowing about what is happening, and they will just grow trust, and they will also be aware of what will happen. So these kinds of things should be done so that we can rectify the future accidents. So I have a mains question for you. Let me read out the question. You can write an answer and post it in the comment section. Despite advancement in technology and regulatory frameworks, civil aviation accidents in India continue to raise concerns about safety, infrastructure, and oversight. So you have to discuss the key challenges in India's civil aviation sector and suggest measures to enhance air safety. So here there is a particular statement is given. So you have to write a justification for the statement by highlighting certain air crashes and how it got rectified. And when it comes to a keyword discuss, you can give multiple dimensions to it. So you can give key challenges in one part and then the measures in another part. So this is how you can complete this answer. It is actually a 15 marker question for 250 words. So you can write answer and post it in the comment section so that we can review as well as your peer can review. So with these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Now look at this article that talks about Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, in short called as PBD. Now currently it is in news because of the illegal immigrants deportation from US to India. So the article highlights two important things that you have to remember. So let us see them in this news article discussion one by one. So let's start with what is this Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. See, it is nothing but a day celebrated on 9th January. It is celebrated to commemorate Gandhiji's return from South Africa to our country, India. So, this particular day's vision is to honor all Indian diaspora's global contribution. So, the main focus will be on fostering engagement between India as well as NRIs. NRIs are non-resident Indians. So, if a person is not living in our country more than 180 days, then they will be categorized as NRIs. They are citizens of India, but they are not residing in India, and that is why non-resident Indian NRI is said. And there are persons of Indian origin. Persons of Indian origin are people who have their roots in our country, that is India. So they might have citizenship in another countries, but they are person who have their roots here. So their grandparents, grandparents will be Indians, and those kinds of persons are persons with Indian origin. And there are overseas citizens of India. Overseas citizens of India are also not citizens of India, but their parents, these two, both the terms are actually similar terms. So they have Indian origin. So those kinds of person will be categorized here. So apart from fostering the engagement between them, this particular celebration will also strengthen bilateral ties, trade, investment, as well as the soft power of our country. So this is the very important thing that you have to remember about this Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. Now moving on, we shall see about what are or who are illegal immigrants. See, any foreigner in a country without valid documents or overstaying visas, then they will be called as illegal immigrants. So visa is like an official document that is issued by any particular country. The visa will have the time or the duration until which a person can reside. So there are actually a lot of types of visas. The first type of visa is like immigrant visa, and the second type is non-immigrant visa. So non-immigrant visa is like is visiting a country temporarily for different purposes. It can be for tourism, it can be for learning, it can be for employment, so those kinds of things. But the immigrant visa, it is issued to citizens of that particular country. So when a person who does not has any of these documents, any of the valid documents, or overstaying their visa, then they will be called as the illegal immigrants. So those persons will be identified by the government, and they will be deported to back to their country of origin. So here when it comes to our country, we have a lot of illegal immigrants, mostly from Bangladeshi, then the Rohingya refugees, then the Nepali or the Afghan refugees, as well as the Pakistani Hindus. So here you can see all of them are surrounding our country or the neighborhood. So remember this fact. Moving on, we shall see about the historical basis of or whenever the illegal immigrant issue arose when it comes to India. So the first instance is this pre-independence. There was a free movement of illegal immigrants within British India. Secondly, during the partition 1947, there was mass migration across the borders. Then we have the Bangladesh Liberation War, which happened in 1971. A lot of influx of Bangladeshi refugees into our country. And then the Sri Lankan Civil War. A few days back, we saw about Elam issue, right? So during that time also a lot of Tamil refugees entered into our country. Then the post 1991 globalization, this increased migration due to the economic disparities. So these are all certain historical basis on which the illegal immigrants entered into our country. Moving on, we shall see about the conditions affecting illegal immigrants. So the first thing is the economic condition. So the poverty, unemployment, wage difference, as well as the demand in informal sector. So those kinds of things actually are the factors for which the illegal immigrants enter into our country. Now the second important thing is the political issue. So any prosecution of the minorities. So if a particular country is favoring a particular group of majority population and the minorities is exploited, then those kinds of persons, they will be seeking for illegal immigration. So then there is a political instability happening, like the civil war and the vote bank politics. So those kinds of things leads to illegal immigrants. And the socio cultural things, say if you take Bangladesh as well as the northeast borders, they have culturally they are similar. So culturally, not only culturally but also they share a language, they share ethnic diversity. So those kinds of things also attract illegal immigrants into our country. The second important thing is the porous border. We recently dismantled this FTA, free movement of people within the Bangladesh as well as our country, and there are certain religious prosecutions that is also leading to illegal immigrants into our country. Moving on, we shall see about the constitutional legal framework. See, remember, we have not signed any kind of agreement when it comes to illegal immigrant as well as the refugees. So we have not internationally accepted to accept give asylum to refugees, but we are providing temporary stays, but we don't have signed any particular international agreement, remember that. So when it comes to constitutional safeguards, we have article 5 to 11. So in that we provide citizenship if they are coming under certain standards mentioned in this articles, they can get citizenship. Then we have article 14, so they will be treated equally. Then we have article 19, so there are certain restrictions on non-citizens which are prescribed by our constitution. Then we talk about legal framework. We have Foreigner Act 1946, then the Citizenship Act 1955 CAA, then the Immigration Carriers Liability Act 2000, then the Passports Act 1967. So all these are legal frameworks that covers diverse things when it comes to illegal immigrants. So each act will be providing each framework or the procedure for which a person should follow. Moving on, we shall see about the challenges. So the first thing is economic challenge. So what happens when people come into our country? There will be resource constraint. So already there will be domestic population facing a lot of resource constraint. So here when they come, they will provide cheap labor. So there is competition for job as well. There will be competition for job, there will be competition for resources, education even, and they can even contribute to vote bank politics. So those kinds of things are the economic things. Then the political things, the identity issue will be there, vote bank politics will be there, then the regional instability will be there, there will be always fighting, and they will be not be focusing on the developmental issues. So the third important thing is the national security threats. So certain people, they can be easily radicalized if they are having a very difficult past. So those kinds of radicalization will actually bring in a lot of national security threats and a lot of cross-border terrorism and radicalization. And finally the social issues. So the demographic changes will be there, there will be a lot of unaccounted population which will actually affect the demographic change of our country. So then there is ethnic clashes will be happening, and the human trafficking issue is also there. So if they are not identified properly, we cannot provide proper safety to them. So this is also a very exploitative method. So these are all challenges of illegal immigrants. So far we saw about who are illegal immigrants. So then we saw about what are all the causes or the factors for which they move to another country, and then we saw about the challenges that they face. So here I have a mains question for you. Let me read out the question. In the context of global migration dynamics, analyze the paradox of Pravasi Bharatiya Divas celebrating the Indian diaspora while India's illegal migrants face systemic neglect. How does Gandhi believe that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others resonate with India's approach to immigration policy? So you can write an answer for this particular question for 10 marker 150 words and post it in the comment section so that we can review your answer as well as your peers can review. So with this, we came to the end of the news article discussion. If you like the video, hit like, do comment, and don't forget to subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy YouTube channel. Now, thank you so much for listening.